share about what is it like to have a brain injury, and how did you feel about that, and how did you get through it? And what was it like when in your head, maybe you wanted to say something, but it didn't come out? So if you could share with us, I guess it's a lot at one time, but thank you, Mary.
Well, I'm being a nurse. I worked with patients that had brain injuries. However, I only knew what the book told me about a brain injury. And you can have brain injury whether you're hit or whether you have a stroke or aneurysm or what. So me being involved with a brain injury, it gave me a whole different perspective of brain injuries. And I didn't know anything like it when I was in the hospital. I didn't know that brain injuries would make you feel like you were hungry, you're starving, you're just, I mean, I gained 10 pounds in 9 days in the hospital because every time a nurse would walk in, I was told this, my kids told me, and every time the nurse would walk into the room, I would say, oh, I'm so hungry. Oh, I need something to eat. And like I said, they bring me stuff to eat, and of course, I just land there and anyway, gained the pounds. And then I convinced the nurse that I knew what I was doing. So I went into she let me take a shower by myself. And I went in there and I dropped my soap. And, because you don't have any feelings hardly. I mean, I didn't have hardly any feelings in my hands. And so I dropped my soap and bent over and hit my head right where I hit it, and I thought, wow, this is something else. So anyway.
Wait a minute, you hit your head. Did you go unconscious after that?
No, it hurt because I had stitches all up here.
Oh my God.
And I didn't have any depth perception after the accident. And
so can I ask you a question? Because I just want to, because this is interesting for those of us who haven't been through it, because bless you, you never know when if a loved one or somebody might have a head injury. And
yes.
It's the thing is that we're this inside view, the fact that you didn't have this regulation. It's kind of like, it sounds like you're, the things that says to us, I'm hungry, I'm not hungry, was off. And you're saying that you didn't even have touch in your hands. So you didn't know if you burned you could have burned yourself and you wouldn't have known, right?
Pardon me.
Bless you. Oh, again, bless you.
Right. Well, then after I got out of the hospital, my daughter would take me shopping. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know where to find the door. My sense of direction, my depth perception was all off. And I had a cell phone, but it was in the floor most of the time because I'd pick it up to use it and it'd fly out of my hand. So, I mean, people think that, oh, you just have brain injury, a head injury. You don't know what, they don't know what you're going through. And then when I got hungry, I didn't know I was hungry until 5 minutes before. If I didn't get something in my stomach, I would just go irate. I mean, I would get so angry. And also I lost use of my bowels and my urine. I had to retrain my brain somehow to get that control back. And like I said, the depth perception, out walking on terrain or hills, I would fall, and I walked down the street, looked like I was drunker than a skunk,
Let me ask you a question, Mary. You get out of the hospital. Didn't you go to some sort of rehab before they'd allow you? I mean,
no.
Why not? This sounds very odd because it sounds to me like you weren't ready to be alone and functional as you normally do. So why isn't there some, is this normal or something? Because it seems kind of strange to me.
I don't think they really knew what I was, how I was. I really do. Because my children, they would check on me, but I was there by myself. I was. And and the doctor, they didn't even suggest anything. And of course, I didn't have sense enough to ask. So
Well, you couldn't. So they didn't, where they treated you, they didn't offer any rehab. They didn't offer
no,
any kind of OT, so you could learn how to use, that's what OT is. We both know does, they
right.
learn the functions. I'm very surprised because I did work in a hospital many years ago, and there were people in long-term rehab, and they did have some brain issues. Now I remember that, and I clicked on it just a minute ago. I forgot about that, and I remember that they would work with people, and it would take months and months and months for them to even have like ability to do certain things. This is stroke victims. It could be head injuries, and it was a very tedious process.
Yes.
Very tedious because it's the same thing over and over, and yet it was so difficult because people, they knew where they wanted to get to, but they weren't there.
Right. Well, after a while, after I see time, I have no idea what the time frame was, but my doctor did suggest speech and cognitive rehab, and I went to a speech therapist that did the cognitive thinking, and I did puzzles, and I couldn't even remember if you told me a number like 1, 2, 3. I couldn't remember that, how to put it in. So I did have that. That went on about 6 weeks. But yeah, and then later on, after I uh, took the took a driving course, I went to voc rehab, and they gave me a driving course, and I passed it. So I went up to one of the facilities here in Missouri and took a cognitive thinking, and I did a lot of puzzles like plumbers would. Yeah, I love doing plumbing. I absolutely love doing those puzzles, and so
I don't
they
know what,
passed
did you
me.
say plumbing like,
Plumbing, like putting pipes together,
okay, because I thought you just said puzzle, so I was confused.
and well,
Oh, you
plumbing
like
to
both.
yeah, plumbing is like a big old puzzle.
So you're saying that you went to some rehab and the cognitive pub, and then you went on and you did some other things. Is this part of your rehab, the plumbing? I'm a little confused. Yeah.
Yeah, this is part of
Interesting.
that. I kept it going,
Okay,
and
gotcha. Very
yeah,
interesting.
yeah, and then I couldn't. Uh, I was only 59 when this happened, and uh, nobody would hire me. I looked at Voc Rehab. I mean, they took me all over applying for jobs that nobody would hire me.
Now, what is
Nobody.
Vocre? I don't know what Vocre means. I don't know what
Voc
that means. I don't know what that is.
Rehabilitation.
Okay. Okay. So
It's a
that's rehab.
state organization,
Okay. Okay.
and so they took me all around, and that, like I said, I finally found a driving company that we took people to the doctors and rehab, that was hurt on the job. But like I said, I didn't have a clue what really a brain injury was
So
until that
but
happened.
what confuses me is that they let you go to some of the therapy, and then you're kind of like on your own, but yet you said you really weren't quite ready, if I'm understanding right. It sounds pretty scary, huh?
It was.
I mean, they
Uh,
just kind of left you on your own, huh?
yeah, yeah,
I don't understand
yes.
that. I really don't.
Well, that's our society, and I even went through. I had enrolled in college. I forget, this was like a couple of years later, because I still wasn't working, working right. Um, but I did go and enroll in college through Voc Rehab, and they to get my RN degree. And so I was pretty well, I had myself all hyped up, and yes, I'm going to go do this. Well, I had enrolled, and they accepted me. I had my books. I was getting ready to get my books and everything. And Voc Rehab called and says, "We can't support you." And I thought, man, talk about knocking my feet out from underneath my legs, my body. That just devastated me. It absolutely devastated me. So anyway, I just, and it takes 7 years. This is what my doctor told me. It takes 7 years for your brain to heal as much as it's going to heal.
So do you know when, like here we are today, how long has it been now since you had this injury?
This was happened in 2005.
Okay, so we're in 2020, so 15 years ago. So you're considered quote unquote healed, right?
Yes.
Do you find that there's any lasting damage, anything that might, is a little different even now, years later, or do you find that you're back to the way you were? Is there any?
I'm not back. Yes, and the classes that I like to take, I I have to read. I have to read and practice and repetition over and over and over again. Otherwise, I don't remember it. I don't. I don't remember a lot. I mean, there is so many things that I just wow. And so, it's just like some of the things that you and I have experienced in doing on the computer. I don't, I don't get it. Uh, and I was a technician on a 1500 telephone line switch at one time before the accident.
And what I'm hearing is that you have been able to, bearing that in mind, you've also been able to live a fabulous life, because I do want to add in that Mary is amazing. She drives I don't know the name of it. Say it's like a truck,
Fifth
maybe
wheel.
fifth, but then the thing that holds the fifth wheel is a big truck, right? So, but let me tell you about this. Mary lives anywhere in the country. Or the world. And she goes all over on her RV, which is fabulous. You are a nurse, which is another great thing. And so I'm hearing that you also were able to adapt, even though you had this really life-threatening, horrendous thing, you were able to have this really rich, full life, which is really hopeful to a lot of us out there that might know someone or might ourselves be someday have, something like this.
Exactly, because I fully believe that we can do and have anything that we set our mind to, and if we focus on it and it feels good to us, we are going to do it. Because that I love to travel, I love to camp, and that's exactly what I do, when I'm not doing in-home health.
What do
So
you think was the biggest thing that got you, I hate to say back on track, but to live as more normal life is the word? Or what do you think is the biggest thing? Why, why do you think that you have come as far as you have in, after this really life-threatening event?
just being able to live and do what I really enjoyed. I I helped build a house in 2000 after the accident, about 2007. I helped build the house. I had a place that I had to take care of. I love to grow things. I had blackberries and peaches and all kinds of trees. I love I love to cut wood. I love to take a chainsaw out there in the forest and cut wood. I just I and just loving to be doing what I like to do.
So what I'm hearing is that you were willing to just do what you like to do, and that really helped because it helped you have the kind of life you had. And that kind of, what do you think was the biggest characteristic of yourself, like that would get you on that track, that would keep you on that track?
Well, my mom, my mom was very influential also because she had a head injury, and
No,
yes, she
this is
was,
weird.
yes, she was hit. My dad and her were hit by a lady, and I mean, she had to learn to walk all over again and talk, and I had to take them both. This was earlier. I had to take them to speech therapy. I had to take them to occupational therapy and so forth. So she was, as she was very influential when it was that I know she was there with me, even though she had passed. But just knowing that it could happen, I had the choice to either go ahead, do what I wanted to do, or do nothing.
So you knew, so
That's
what I'm hearing is that the experience with your mom kind of pushed you into saying, well, gee whiz, I know what it's like
yes.
when did your mother ever really fully recover?
She she uh, she came back. Pretty much so too. I mean, she was out making garden and everything else like after that. So yeah, we have very strong will in our heritage.
So what I'm hearing is that you kind of made that it's just something, because I think this helps all of us. And I deal with people that are stuck a lot, and that kind of noise in your head that says, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. And what I'm hearing is that even if you don't believe it at first, you just do it. And look what, Mary, you're really quite an example of that, because here you are, I can't do that, I can't do that, but look at what you can do. And look at how,
Yes,
I mean, what you do, most of us, I know me for one thing, can't begin to touch it, all this, everything you said, cutting wood, this and stuff. I mean, I don't do it. And I've never had a brain injury. And I can only imagine somebody who, I mean, putting together houses and all this kind of stuff, I would know what to do. And here you are with this very, to me, intricate kind of stuff to do. And you've really focused in on that, what you can do, and you keep on growing with that, because you said so many different things that you can do. And I think that offers a lot of hope in case one of us has that. And so what I'm hearing, you're somebody that's really full of hope and know that you can do it, and that's a great thing to share, and I appreciate you sharing that.
thank you. And I do believe in what you focus on is what you get. Because if you say, oh, I just feel so bad or whatever, you're going to feel bad. But I feel great. I take no medication. I I'm great, and I know I can do anything I set my mind to, and physically and mentally. There's a lag, but I'll keep on till I get it going, and that's I just think everybody should understand that people that have a brain injury, you don't know the extent that they're going through when they have it. So be patient with them, encourage them to think about what they want to do and focus on the words that they use. Even though they can't speak a lot of times, they can focus on in their head that, yes, I will walk, I will walk, I will walk, go out, I will go climb a mountain, whatever ever a person. And a mountain might only be 6 foot, the incline, but just keep it going. And because I know so many people that they've been told you'll never walk again, but they don't believe that. And then I've know people they get told that, and they don't ever walk again. And that's one thing I do. I don't like to hear a doctor say, well, you only have 5 years to live. Well, how does he know that? Well, if he puts that in a person's head and they believe it, they're going to only live 5 years. I've
Well,
seen it.
that's true. So what I'm also hearing is that it's what you tell yourself. And that
Yes,
if you tell yourself, yes, I can, then you can. And thank you for being this example. Our time is up, if you can believe that. It goes so fast. Mary, thank you for sharing that, because I think that this is something very important for all of us to share. And thanks for your honesty about that, because that's kind of personal, you know. Thank you so
yes.
much for being a part of it, Mary. Thank you so
You're
much. It's a
welcome.
delight having you.
I love it. I love it. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
Wow. I love you. Bye
love you.
bye.
Bye bye.